right, welcome to Peace of Mind Radio. I am Brian Ramsey along with Chris Vaughn.
Hi.
Today we're talking about things that, I don't know, things that you should be doing, could be doing, might ought to think about doing, maybe make a checklist, maybe make a to-do list, all those things that maybe you should be doing during a, when times get tough, right? When the market's being challenged, maybe other forces around us are being challenged, and we have a tendency to sort of hunker down, almost go into hibernation. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We brought up the fact that what we see a lot is that during difficult times, investors have a tendency to sort of hunker down.
Yep.
And they are like, the excuse is always, as we were talking about before the show, the excuse is, I'll take care of it when it's over.
When this is over, right.
Like, I'll do this when it's over, or I'm going to wait till things recover and then I'm going to make a change. And so this series that we're going to run, we're going to do several of these. Not sure how many. We laid out 3 or 4 or something, but may do a few more. But the point behind this is that hopefully if you hear this, you go, yep, you know what, you're right. I should maybe go out and take a look at these particular things just to make sure that they're up to date or reflect my current wishes or whatever the case is. We thought we'd do a show on it.
Yep.
So today we're talking about what, Chris? Why don't you introduce the topic? I'm getting a drink of coffee.
Okay. The topic we were going to talk about today is we're going to deal with the kind of benefits that you can get through your employer.
Yeah.
And a lot of these are you have to do them at open enrollment season, but what you don't want to do is determine what you need in that last minute. Oh, I've got to turn this in by Friday, and it's Wednesday night already, and we haven't discussed it. Let's get these things discussed out in front of it so we know what we want to do with our open enrollment type things. So benefits through work.
Yeah, but and it may very well be that some things you might be able to change now, right? It doesn't always have to be.
Correct. Some things you can.
Yeah, and so we're going to talk about those because it doesn't always have to be that you have to wait to open enrollment, although a number of the things that we're talking about, it is. But what you could do is you could put on your calendar for the beginning of November to make a notation to come back and watch this podcast or listen to the podcast, or just put a note on there and say, hey, I remember these guys talking about, getting increasing my life insurance or whatever the case is. You might make a note of it, and then when that time comes around, you'll remind yourself and you can do it, right?
Yep, there it is.
All right, so Chris, what is, as we were sort of making our list of things that your employer typically offers. Now, this is not this may not, your company may not offer everything here, right, or your company may offer a lot more, right? We see clients from work at big companies that have a lot of benefits, and then we see clients that come in that work for smaller companies that may not necessarily have everything that's on our list, right?
Right, that's right.
So it's kind of all over the board, but you'll get the point, right? The point is take action today to better yourself coming out of this particular situation we're in, which is hopefully the tail end of this whole COVID thing. So, all right. So, Chris, you take the first one.
Well, the most obvious thing that you can get through work that's a benefit that most companies offer would be life insurance. As I deal with life insurance as part of financial plans and talking to some of the carriers over the last year, the life insurance companies have been absolutely inundated since the whole COVID shutdown started last year, because I would assume people are worried about their own mortality, so they go out and they say, well, I need to get more life insurance. How you determine the correct amount of life insurance that's another show in itself.
It is.
But I can tell you that if you can get insurance through work, number one, it's cheaper. It just is, because you're getting a group rate. And as long as you don't go too high, every company has different rules here, you're guaranteed to be approved up to certain levels. So it's fairly common for companies to say, okay, you get 1 times base salary. That might be included at no charge to you, but you might be able to get 2 or even 3 times with absolutely no underwriting whatsoever. All you have to do is elect it, but that is very much an open enrollment thing. So that's the first thing that you can get there.
Yeah, and just so you know that when it comes to life insurance, you typically, there's a couple of different offerings. Chris mentioned it. I'll just elaborate just slightly on it, but typically when you're bigger employers will give you a basic life insurance policy of around $50,000, something, give or take a little bit.
Yeah,
but it's
very common like that.
Yeah, it's $50,000, group policy. That you typically, if you were to leave your employer, doesn't go with you.
Right.
It
That's the con to group life insurance at work is if you leave and go somewhere else, you lose that coverage.
Yeah, that's right. But you can do an extended policy on top of that, which was Chris was talking about 1, 2, 3 times your salary or something. Those, not always, but I have been in situations where those are somewhat portable.
Sometimes.
It's not that common, but it is a situation where it might be portable. So again, that's just something you're going to need to know. But it's super cheap and easy. That's why we tell everybody max that out first. When you're going through your financial need for your life insurance, max that out first. All right, what's next?
Well, disability insurance.
Okay, big one, right?
Yeah, and I think disability insurance is probably the most overlooked form of insurance that is fairly common for people to need.
Oh, I 100% agree.
And it blows my mind people don't have this, and I might have my stats wrong. It's like 1 in 4 people will have at least a short-term disability situation during their working years. So we're not talking about getting sick and being out for 3 or 4 days. That's what sick time is for.
Right.
We're talking about due to illness or injury, and illness is actually much more common than injury when it comes to disability claims. You cannot work for a period of time that is longer than the vacation and sick days time that you have saved up. And that's when that insurance kicks in. The interesting thing about it is, and this is as a motivation for people to actually go back to work so that they don't sit at home and become the couch potato, disability insurance is limited on how much you can get. So in most states, it's around 70%, meaning you can only be covered up to 70% of your total income. So if you think about it from that perspective, if you've got the best possible policy or group of policies, in total, you're going to take a minimum of a 30% pay cut. And think about what would happen if you took basically a 1/3 pay cut that fast. That could be devastating to your family. So that's why disability insurance is so important. And it is fairly cheap when you get it through your employer, and it is very expensive to go outside as a general rule. So I recommend to every client, always get your disability insurance through work, and I've yet to see a situation where I didn't recommend maxing it out.
Yeah, so I'll add 2 things to that. So what's interesting is, and we've had conversations about this, but what's interesting, we're teaching an adult literacy program right now, and I mentioned this last week in the adult literacy program, and my girlfriend happened to be there, and she was like, "I have never looked at it that way." Now, you don't know what I'm going to. Obviously, I have not mentioned what I was going to say, but here it is. So we were talking about insurance in general, and we were saying how most people will get, auto insurance to cover the car.
Right.
They have homeowners insurance to cover the value of their home, which is typically a person's largest asset.
Yes.
Is their home. The one thing you can't get insurance for is your 401k, right? There's no insurance to guarantee anything like that. However, I said in the class, and I do believe this, that your largest asset that you have is your ability to make income, right?
Yep.
It's
called human capital, and you're absolutely right.
It's the biggest thing we want to insure, and yet very few people insure it.
Right.
And when we left after the class and we went and grabbed something to eat, and she was like, "Can I just tell you something?" And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "I have never heard it ever presented that way."
Right.
And I'm like, "Well, that's what it is, right?
Yep.
It's your biggest asset." So anyway, so disability insurance. Absolutely.
And those 2 forms, disability and life insurance, are designed to cover that ability to earn an income, human capital, if you want to use the fancy name.
That's right. And so I will tell you that there typically is some sort of company-provided disability that gets you to a certain percentage. I've seen anywhere from 60 to 70%, as Chris mentioned. However, you can actually purchase additional benefit, what we call gap insurance.
Yep.
And all it does is give you the ability to increase that rate up to around 75, 80% or something in that ballpark, usually around 75% or so. So if you're at 60 and you get to 75, that's a heck of a deal.
Yeah, it is.
But there's a whole slew of information that goes along with doing that. So you just need to make sure that you go to seek the advice of a professional and say, "Hey, I want to insure more than what I'm getting through work." And let us walk you through that scenario, because there's all kinds of different aspects of disability insurance that makes it more expensive, less expensive. all that good stuff. So disability is a great one. Yep. What's next?
Yeah, HSAs, and this is something you are super passionate about. If you ever go to one of the workshops that we do, Brian's passionate about certain things. We all are. Yeah. When you get to HSAs, he loses his mind. I mean, this is a huge one for you. So tell everybody why an HSA is such a big deal.
Well, it's actually considered it's called a health savings account. Now, it's different than a flex savings account. We get that question a lot. Yeah. Flex savings account, totally different. Use it or lose it. HSA is totally different. You have to have a high deductible plan in order to have one. But the one huge benefit to it is that it is what we call triple tax free. So you get to contribute to it pre-tax. It grows tax free, which Chris and I had a conversation about 30 minutes ago about how you get it to grow. And then third, when you take those distributions for medical expense, it's tax free. So the concept behind an HSA is that you have to pay a certain amount up to your deductible out of pocket. So the concept is you put $100 in over the course of a month or 2 months or whatever. Right. Somebody gets sick, they need a prescription refilled for $25. They give you a debit card, you go and you swipe the debit card, you pull the money out tax-free. That $25, you've never paid tax on it, and you get to use it as an expense, right?
Right.
But there are so many ways to take advantage of that account type, because that's really what it's all about. That's a whole different podcast in itself. But the concept is that when you put the money in there, you have $25 you got to spend, okay?
Right.
What's a better use of your money? The HSA that went in tax-free, that grows tax-free, and it's tax-free later on, versus take money out of your checking account. Well, the better use of your money is paying $25 out of your checking account.
Correct.
That is not tax-free. Yeah. So HSAs, we could do a whole show on HSAs, but we won't. However, we are seeing more and more employers go to a high-deductible plan, or what they call catastrophic health insurance, and that's what I have. And so you have the ability to contribute to an HSA. And in some cases, we are seeing more employers that are now matching contributions to your HSA. So you put in X amount of dollars, they'll match it. It's a great incentive. It's a great tool to use. Properly used can be a huge advantage to you as you age and in theory, your health maintenance goes up, right? The older you get, so you get to use this HSA. Can you invest it? Absolutely. Are there plans that restrict your ability to invest, as we're finding out? Yes.
That was the conversation we had about a half an hour ago.
However, I have my HSA at a particular institution that I can invest it. And so that's what I do. I make my contribution, and I turn around and put it right in the market.
Interestingly enough, I'm going to kind of tee up what we were talking about earlier. So let's just say, for example, I have an HSA that my wife and I are contributing to, right? But we don't have any investment options. What can I do?
So you can open up an HSA at a different program
other than the one my employer provides.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's just like a 401k.
Right.
Right. And you're still let's say you're still a participant.
Right.
You can have an IRA outside. You have to meet certain requirements. Right? We're not getting into that, but there are some requirements you got to meet. You can take money out of your 401k, move it to an IRA, and still be a participant.
Right.
Well, the HSA is the same, although you have to keep a certain amount of cash in case you used your debit card.
Right.
But anything above that, you can transfer.
So I can transfer that to this new facility,
Correct.
Whatever you want to call it, put it into that HSA account, and then my investment options are considerably greater, right?
Yeah, there's probably, the one I use, there's probably 25 investment choices, give or take.
That's a whole lot better than zero.
Yeah, that's better than...
It's a lot better than zero or one.
Yeah, one's better than... Yeah, that's right. So there's options. That's the point is there's options. So if you are contributing to an HSA and you want to learn more about it, just call us. Come see us, because I couldn't tell you how many folks we deal with that have HSAs, and I personally have one. And really, it's just more about education and proving the point to a client, or providing them the information in order for them to make a better financial decision. But it's all about, where is your money most effectively used for you? Is it taking money out of your checking account to pay for that prescription, or is it taking money out of essentially a triple net tax-free account to pay for that? And we argue that it's taking money out of your checking account.
I told y'all he was passionate about this.
Yeah, I know. And if Yeah, and if
But
you
you
do
see
come
why?
in,
Because of the tax issue. It's such a big deal if you do it the right way.
and we're always talking to clients about, it's about the account type that it makes the
Right.
most difference. And obviously that the HSA is a great account type.
Yep.
All right, what's next?
Cool. So the major medical health insurance
Yeah.
that you get at work.
Yeah.
And I think most people understand that that is where most of us get our health insurance from. It is the cheapest place as a general rule to get your health insurance from. But a couple of the things that I want to point out, you have some options when you're picking those out. Once again, this is typically an open enrollment type of thing, or when you first start with a new company, is some of the variables that you've got in there like dental and vision. And I'm amazed as I talk to people that they don't put any thought into this part. And we were talking earlier, my oldest he's got a couple of teeth that have come in crooked. So orthodontia is coming. Well, when you're picking out your plans, you want to look at your dental plan and see if orthodontia is covered. And if it is, by how much? And, I don't want to use my HSA. I'd much rather the insurance cover it, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that you have to think about. Vision is the same way.
Right.
All four of us in my family wear glasses. Three of us wear contacts and glasses. So you can see how that would add up very, very quickly to these major expenses. So you want to make sure that you're selecting the dental and the vision coverage, for example, that is the best situation for your family.
Yeah, really health plans are becoming more and more creative about capturing more and more dollars, right? So they're doing all these kind of one-off policies that you can add to your health insurance. You can add major like a cancer policy, an accidental death and dismemberment. All these little add-ons, they all add up, right?
Yeah,
so
do.
That's the biggest thing is you just got to go through and evaluate it. Here's what I have a number of clients that during open enrollment will bring in their packet they receive, and we just sit down and walk through them. And here's what you need to select. Here's what I wouldn't necessarily select that based on your situation. So by all means, do that. Now the last one that we've got is 401k or a retirement plan. It could be simple IRA.
403Bs,
403B.
457s.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, but they're all kind of the same thing.
Yep. So here's what we would tell you is this is one that not anything prior to that we've talked about is typically an open enrollment type evaluation, right? You have to get to that triggering point in order to make a change.
This is not, and people all the time, they think that it is. I can't make a change until October, November, whenever their open enrollment is.
Now,
not true.
Yep, and contribution-wise, whether you want to increase, decrease your contribution, which we would never recommend you decrease it, but in some circumstances you have to.
Sure.
That your employer has to determine when you're eligible to do that. It could be monthly, it could be quarterly. That's up to them. However, we always say at the beginning of the year, everybody typically gets a raise. This is kind of one of the big components of it. You typically get a raise at the end of the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't.
Hopefully. I don't.
You don't pay yourself. You don't give yourself a raise.
No, I'm cheap.
Yeah. I know. I keep asking my boss, and he keeps telling me no, too. But point is that at the beginning of every year, as a participant in a 401k plan, you have the ability to go in and increase your contribution limit. Right. So if you get a 3% raise and you go in and increase your contribution by 1 percentage point, makes a huge difference down the road. So, and you're getting 2% anyway. So net 2%, right? Because you're going to put one away and you get 3, whatever. But that's a great option to, at the beginning of the year, when you get your raise, jump into your 401k plan and increase your contributions by 1%. It's there's just no downside to it. So that's a good one. All right. So another thing you can do inside your 401k plan that we always recommend is at least review your current holdings at least annually.
Yeah.
So after the first of the year, make yourself a note, put it on your calendar. Remember, we put on your calendar at the end of the year, right, to make sure you review your
Check
benefits.
for your open enrollments.
Yep. Do this at either at that point or at the first of the year after you have met with your boss and the boss says, hey, you get a 3 to 5% raise and you're going in to increase your contribution limits by 1% anyway. Jump in and take a look at your holdings and just rebalance them. But when you rebalance, whatever you do, and I'm going to let Chris talk about this, but whatever you do, please seek the advice of a professional. You can come see us, go see your current advisor. Right. You can call the mutual fund company and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm thinking about doing that. And here's the reason why I think you should seek the advice of a professional. Number one, because we can give you professional advice, right?
Sure.
But number two, we see a lot of DIYers that come in that have now, like, hey, I've managed my 401k forever, right? But I now am looking for somebody to manage an IRA over here.
Right.
And then we wind up looking at the 401k, and inevitably what they have multiple invested in?
Target date funds.
There you go. It's the same fund.
Well, okay, so real quick, because I don't want to go too long, because this is definitely going down a rabbit trail. A target date fund is one of those funds, it's a mutual fund typically, where you have a date on there. So I'm going to be retiring in roughly 2030. So I would pick the target date 2030 fund. And I think most people understand that the longer away that date is, the more aggressive the fund is. And this is where people get in trouble. And they say, okay, let's see, I'm going to retire in 2040. So the conservative part of my portfolio, I should get a 2025 or a 2030. And I should get some aggressive stuff. So I'll do a 2050 and a 2055. Don't do that. One fund. They are specifically designed for that purpose. Target date funds are great when you don't know what you're doing. That's exactly what they're for. I'm not an expert in this field, therefore I should use a target date fund. But you pick the one that is closest to your actual target date, and you stick with that. Never do two or more.
Yeah, well, part of it is that very few participants in a 401k plan actually get education on how to invest. Right?
Correct. Absolutely.
They go to one meeting a year, if that.
Maybe.
And they talk about the funds, and then they go, any questions? And you're too scared to do this, and so you don't do it. So then you just go in and pick 3 or 4 of these target date funds, and really you're just duplicating your effort. But to Chris's point, just pick the one fund. That's what they're designed to do.
Yep.
And go with it. Now, what they'll also tell you is that the closer you get to retirement, the more conservative the fund gets. And we would tell you that that's not necessarily where a retiree should be.
Right.
Because this is going down another rabbit hole, but you've got 20, 30 years potentially in retirement. You don't want to get too conservative and have the potential for your assets not surviving you.
Right.
So that's a whole different story, which we can talk about later.
That'd be a good podcast. Maybe we'll do that sometime.
Yeah. All right, so here's the thing. The point behind us doing these is just to give you a little nugget of information to be able to say, oh, yeah, hey, that's maybe something I should take a look at for myself. If you get to a point where you're not sure what to do, call us or seek the advice of a professional and say, here's where I am, here's what I'm looking to do. Can you give me some advice, or can you give me some direction? We're happy to do that. So next week we're talking 401k plans?
Sure.
I think we are.
I
or
honestly
maybe
don't remember.
we just talked too much about it and we can't put a whole... I think we are.
We'll come up with something really good for you.
Yeah, I think we are. So anyway, tune in next week. Go back and watch any of our podcasts from our later podcasts. And also keep in mind that we do multiple sets of podcasts. We have this one. We have a Connecting the Commonwealth, which is one that we talk to or interview individual business owners and entrepreneurs in town. It's not about us. It's not about financial matters. It's all about them.
It's amazing what you learn from these people, too.
Yeah, it's very cool. We just, it's just services that you may or may not know about in town. So it's a pretty cool podcast. And then we also, for fun, do one called Burgers and Bourbon.
I love it. You cannot say that right the first time.
I
don't think you've got it right yet.
We're just going to go straight B&B later. But anyway, it's Burgers and Bourbon. It's a pretty cool podcast, so make sure you check it out. And I guess that's it for this week. Make sure you
let's give them some contact
week.
information.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, all right. So if you are watching this on YouTube or whatever, go to our website, FWPPartners.com, and you can get in and subscribe to all of our other podcasts. If you are listening to this, what's the best phone number for them to reach us, Brian?
502-200-5210.
And what's a great email address for them to reach out?
I thought you were closing this out.
Okay, so I was just throwing you under the bus, see if you could get that. It's info@FWPPartners.com. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good week.
The information given herein is taken from sources at IFP Advisors, LLC, doing business as Independent Financial Partners, IFP, IFP Securities, doing business as IFP, and its advisors believed to be reliable, but it is not guaranteed by us as to accuracy or completeness. This is for informational purposes only, and in no event should be construed as an offer to sell or solicitation of an offer to buy any securities or products. Please consult your tax and/or legal advisor before implementing any tax and/or legal-related strategies mentioned in this publication, as IFP does not provide tax and/or legal advice. Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs of individual investors. This report may not be reproduced, distributed, or published by any person for any purpose without IFP's express prior written consent. Securities offered through IFP Securities, LLC, doing business as Independent Financial Partners, IFP, member of FINRA and SIPC. Investment advice offered through IFP Advisors, doing business as IFP, a registered investment advisor. IFP and Family Wealth Planning Partners are not affiliated. The information given herein is taken from sources that IFP Advisors, LLC, doing business as IFP, IFP Securities, LLC, doing business as IFP, and its advisors believe to be reliable, but it is not guaranteed by us as to accuracy or completeness. This is for informational purposes only, and in no event should be construed as an offer to sell or solicitation of an offer to buy any securities or products. Please consult your tax and/or legal advisor before implementing any tax and/or legal related strategies mentioned in this publication, as IFP does not provide tax and/or legal advice. Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs of individual investors.